What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Luttie's Look Back. My name is Nick Luttrell. We have got a packed show for you all today on this lovely Tuesday afternoon. We'll talk a lot of college basketball. We'll touch briefly on the Arkansas baseball and softball. And then at the end of the show, we'll preview just briefly the state championships coming up in the high school basketball world. We'll start my show a little differently than we normally start it. We'll talk Arkansas men's basketball. Normally I break down my three big things. It made more sense for me to actually look ahead a little bit for Arkansas this week. So coming up in about 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to preview the SEC tournament for the Razorbacks. I will do a bracket breakdown. Every game in the SEC tournament I will pick, and I'll try to put together a perfect bracket for the SEC tournament that will start tomorrow in Nashville. So we'll talk about that. But this Razorback team obviously got the win on Saturday afternoon at Missouri without this guy, without Darius Acuff Jr. But then later on Monday, he was named the SEC Freshman of the Year and the SEC Player of the Year. 22 points a game this year, 6 assists. He shot almost 50% from the field. I think that number was around 40% from beyond the arc. He had a sensational year as far as the regular season. As far as we're talking about for the regular season, he had an amazing year. He really did. And I hope that's not the only thing we talk about when we talk about Darius Acuff in the future, is how great of a regular season he had. I hope we're talking about the national champion Darius Acuff. Like, wouldn't that be cool? I don't know if that'll happen. Probably not. But let's at least make a run in March Madness. And then we're talking about Darius Acuff being one of the best Razorbacks to ever play. As far as a single season, it's up there. As far as what I've seen in my lifetime, it's up there as one of the greatest. But in the regular season, Arkansas finishes 23-8 overall, 13-5 in the SEC. Those of you who are avid watchers of Luttie's Look Back, back in January, I think it was my first show of the new year, I predicted every single game for the Arkansas basketball schedule. I had them going 12-6. They went 13-5. I had a couple games in there that were different than what they actually did, but I'll take that, only being one game off. So if you're like, does Nick know ball? I know ball, all right? Trust me on that. We'll talk about my bracket coming up a little bit later. But before we do that, let's talk about some other things that happened this past weekend, and we'll start with UCA. The men's basketball team, you want to talk about great players. For the Razorbacks, it's Darius Acuff. For the Bears, well, I mean, how can it not be Cam Hunter? One of the best players that UCA has ever seen. He was there for a few seasons, transferred back. The kid who was dominant with the Bryant Hornets, 5 years ago, put together just a phenomenal career for UCA. In this game, the championship game, the ASUN championship game, he had 49 points. UCA scored 93 points. He had over half the points of his entire team. Exceptional performance from Cam Hunter like I've never seen before, and he went out as one of the greatest to ever wear the purple and white for UCA. But Cam Hunter aside, UCA lost this game. What a thrilling game. They were, I think, down 7 or 8 with about 30 seconds left or a minute left. They forced a couple turnovers. Cam Hunter made some big shots, made some big free throws. ESPN Analytics gave them like a 1.6% chance to win with like 30 seconds left. UCA came back. They tied the game, forced it into overtime, and then they just couldn't hold on. Queens had a really good shooter on their side. Clint Ashby was his name, so he's going to be fun to watch in March Madness. But, man, Cam Hunter would have been more fun. He would have been more fun. So a crushing loss for UCA, but no doubt a terrific season. A terrific season for a team that won 20-plus games this year. Last year they won 7, 9. It was a single-digit number. It was not good. So Coach Schulman has done an amazing job with this UCA program, and I hope they continue to go up and up. And speaking of Coach Schulman, here is his opening statement, what he had to say after a crushing loss for the UCA Bears.
It's emotional, and it hurts really bad because it was so good. In some years, it's not so good. But it's emotional because it was so good. That's why it hurts so bad. And you know how lucky we are because it hurts so bad? We're very lucky. And it hurts. But for what our team did is it's a 30 for 30. It's an E60. What we did with and him leading the way. And I thought we could pull a rabbit out of a hat, and we almost did. But it hurts. It hurts. We came a long ways to get to this point, and we were really close. And I mean, our kids were exhausted. But what they did for UCA, and what they did for Conway, and what they did for our program, that's what hurts.
Yeah, so great performance for UCA, but again, a crushing loss to come that close. To come that close to being to the first time you're ever going to make it to March Madness, to the NCAA tournament, and just losing in overtime, that is crushing. But I do hope they can get back to that very same spot next season. They'll be in a different conference in the UAC, not the ASUN. The UAC will be a new conference, so we'll see what that'll be like for UCA. But Cam Hunter, I mean, you can't say anything about him except amazing things. And I love how Coach Schulman, and I was wondering, like, okay, what Coach Schulman, when we talked to him a week and a half ago, he said, Cam Hunter is our guy. He's a leader of our team. Like, we're relying on him. And Cam was sitting there next to him. He said, he's the guy who's going to lead us to the promised land. It was all on Cam's shoulders. And as Coach Schulman was saying that, I was like, man, that's a lot of pressure on one guy. I know you have other players, and Schulman acknowledged those other players, but he put a lot of pressure on one guy. And I was like, what's Cam going to do with that pressure? And he comes out here and scores almost 50 points in the championship game. So he performed very well. He performed very well, and he'll be known as one of the greats for a long time in Conway. So well done to UCA, and Coach Schulman has elevated their program to another level because of what happened this season. Another coach that has elevated their team to another level is the women's side of things in Conway. The UCA women also falling short. They fell in the semifinals, maybe not as crushing of a loss. They weren't the dominant team that the men's team was all season long, but they had won like 11 games in a row heading into the ASUN tournament. And they won their quarterfinal game. They're looking good, but then a matchup with Jacksonville just did not favor them. Shea Litterford 0 for 5 from beyond the arc. Bree Stevens in her final game is a bare 9 points. They turned it over 18 times. They just did not shoot the ball well. But again, a great season for them. They finished 21-11 overall, 13-5 in Atlantic Sun play, but it comes to an end in the semifinals. And here's what head coach Tony Kemper had to say after the game.
Something that's happened at Central Arkansas, and I just talked about this, and Bree's been here from the jump. She came because of culture. Like, we have raised the floor of our program so high in 3 years. Like, no pride 3 years ago, to complete disappointment that we just bowed out in the semifinals. Terrible. I mean, it's an awful day. Awful day. And I couldn't have done that without her. And the other ones, I got a towel for it. I knew it was going to come. I'm pretty sad I have to figure out how to win without Bree Stevens. And I haven't had to do that for 3 years. And that's here now.
Yeah, congrats to the UCA men and women on terrific seasons. Let's move on to looking ahead to this weekend of sports, to this in particular, the SEC tournament bracket. You see it here, the Razorbacks earning a 3 seed. They'll play Friday night around 8:30 Central Standard Time. This game, or this tournament in Nashville at Bridgestone Arena. It's where it's pretty much always been. I know they've moved it around a little bit, but here's the bracket. And I'm going to do my best like I do, I don't know, every other month to try to do some type of bracket breakdown. I'll probably do it a lot coming up in the next few weeks with Arkansas in the NCAA tournament. We'll see how far they make it. But I'm going to do my best. And, you saw my predictions back in January. I was only 1 game off, so I'm feeling good about my predictions. We'll see how many games off I am in this one, because it's tough when you get to the SEC tournament. But let's go to my predictions. You see 1 through 16, you see the seeds there. Starting with Wednesday afternoon. This game 11:30 a.m. Kentucky not used to playing this game at 11:30, but their fans will still show out. And Kentucky wins this easily. So give me Kentucky to move on to this game on Thursday against Missouri. LSU, not a good team this year. Just not a good. Hopefully the Tigers can get back to being a better basketball program. But I'm actually okay with them not being great. And I don't want to root for Kentucky, but I do think they will win that game. The game that follows it, Mississippi State and Auburn. I lean Auburn in this one. Auburn's playing a little bit better as of late, so give me them to advance to the quarterfinal matchup to face off against the 5 seed Tennessee. Auburn's got Keyshawn Hall, Tahad Pettiford. I think one of those guys was a first team SEC player. Both of them are exceptional for this Tigers team. This game also means a lot to Auburn. Mississippi State, I believe right now, is out of the NCAA tournament according to the bracketologist Joe Lunardi. Auburn is in. They're the last team in to the NCAA tournament right now, so they need to win this game to make the NCAA tournament, so they want it more, and I think they are the better team to advance to that one. Okay, Game 3, the evening portion of the SEC tournament on Wednesday night, Ole Miss and Texas. I'm giving the Longhorns the nod here to advance to the quarterfinals to face off against Georgia. Texas, another team that is on the bubble to make the NCAA tournament. They're currently in the last 4 in. Again, Auburn's barely in. Texas is a little bit higher than them. The Longhorns, though, I think, have lost 4 of their last 5 games. They've got wins against Alabama and against Vanderbilt, which are 2 of these top 4 teams. So they've looked good at times this season. They looked good at times when they played the Razorbacks earlier this year. That was the only full game that I've watched them play. But they're good enough to beat Ole Miss. We'll talk about their matchup with Georgia coming up in a second. South Carolina and Oklahoma. How about Oklahoma? They started out SEC play 1-9, 1-8, 1-10. They started out SEC play 1-10, but I'm giving them the nod here over South Carolina. Nigel Pack can play, and he'll get them to the quarterfinals. And let's talk about it. The quarterfinal matchup here on Thursday, Kentucky and Missouri. Kentucky might be a slight favorite in this game, even though they're the 9 seed facing off against Georgia. This game, another early one. But I actually think Big Blue Nation upsets Missouri, and that really hurts Missouri's chances of making to the NCAA tournament. So I'm giving the Wildcats to advance here. It's a little bit because of my bias towards Kentucky. That's probably why they'll be favored in this game. That's why they're easily into the NCAA tournament, because it's Kentucky, and you just assume that they're going to have a good basketball team. They're not as good as they have been in years past, I will say that. But they're good enough to be in the NCAA tournament. They're good enough to beat LSU. They're good enough to beat Missouri. I really like Missouri's team. I think they've got a couple of big guys that are tremendous at playing the game of basketball. But I don't think Missouri wants this game. I don't think Missouri will win this game, and I think Kentucky will win. So that's my move there. Let's move on to that game. The next game on Thursday, Game 2, Game 6 overall, Auburn and Tennessee. I don't pick many upsets. I'll go ahead and spoil it for you a little bit. I don't pick many upsets in this SEC tournament in my bracket breakdown here. This is one I'm picking an upset. So give me Auburn to take down Tennessee. Again, this is a game I think Auburn just wants it a little bit more, and I think because of them being a bubble team in the SEC, or excuse me, in the NCAA tournament, I think Tennessee's not playing like the team we saw midway through SEC competition. They've lost 3 of their last 5. Don't get me wrong, Jacoby Gillespie is a great player. He's a first-team All-SEC player, but I think Tennessee actually loses in this game, and that'll be a bit of a shocker because the Volunteers will have a big fan base there playing in their home state. Okay, moving on to Game 7. Texas and Georgia. I mentioned Texas earlier, how I like their team, how they're also a bubble team. Facing off against Georgia, I might have a little bias because of how Georgia played earlier in the season when they destroyed the Razorbacks in Athens. I understand this game's not in Athens. It's a neutral site affair. But you see it here. I think Georgia will win this game against the Longhorns. I just think they're the better team. They've got a flashy offense. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. Most of the time, every now and then you have something weird, but most of the time, if teams are playing good heading into the SEC tournament, they're going to win a lot of games in the SEC tournament. Georgia, like I said, has won 5 of their last 6, so they'll advance to the quarterfinal matchup. I think I said quarterfinal earlier. It's a little complicated here. There's a lot of teams now that you got Texas and Georgia in here. And finally, our game on Thursday, Oklahoma and Texas A&M. The winner of this will play the Razorbacks on Friday night. Again, I think Oklahoma's a good team. They scared me when they played the Razorbacks. Nigel Pack is a tremendous player for them, but I think Texas A&M is just a better team. So the 6th seed out of the SEC, the Aggies will advance to the quarterfinals to face off against the Razorbacks. I just think I'll talk more about the Aggies later when that's play the Razorbacks. Okay. Quarterfinal matchup, Kentucky, Florida, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Alabama, A&M, Arkansas. We'll start with the top one. This is where the magic runs out for Kentucky. Florida's the best team in the SEC. They're one of the best teams in the country, so I've got them advancing to the semifinals. Really no problem there. Auburn and Vanderbilt, I also don't see another upset happening here. I'm giving you Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's been impressive this season. They'll have kind of that home court advantage. Their campus just 10 minutes down the road from Bridgestone Arena. So I like the Commodores to advance to the semifinals. Same thing here. I'm giving Alabama the nod to advance to the semifinals. Georgia, again, is a good team, but Alabama has been playing really good as of late. Let me double check the math here. I can't remember. I think they've probably won 9 of their last 10. They've been playing really good, including a double overtime win over the Razorbacks when they probably should have lost because they were down by double digits in the second half. Finally, let's talk about the Razorbacks, the Arkansas Razorbacks. If you're watching this show, you probably care about the Razorbacks. And I think Arkansas wins this game. Buckyball is good with Texas A&M, and they started out the SEC play 9-1, but since then they have, 7-1, but since then they've gone 4-6. They play a quick brand of basketball. Arkansas won this matchup just a couple weeks ago at Bud Walton Arena. I think this game is tight, but I think Arkansas pulls ahead to advance to the semifinals. So it's really chalky. I've got the teams that are supposed to be in the semifinals. But that's just my prediction. I could be wrong. Finally, in our semifinals, or not finally, we still got a couple ones left. But let's talk about the semifinals. Florida and Vanderbilt. As I mentioned, Vanderbilt has the home court advantage, but Florida is just too good this season. I got Florida advancing to the SEC championship game. And then Alabama and Arkansas, it's a rematch between these two teams that went to double overtime. You know Darius Acuff wants 50 points, and he wants to win this time. I don't think he'll score 50 points. I think he'll score 31. And I think they'll beat Alabama to advance to the SEC championship game. And obviously I have a little bit of bias. Okay, and we're here in Little Rock. We're rooting on the Razorbacks. I grew up a Razorback fan. It's been a while since I've seen Arkansas in this SEC championship game. I'm going to say 2016, 2015, somewhere around there. Kind of when the Mike Anderson days were good, the Daniel Gafford days. I want to say maybe the last time that they made it to the SEC championship game to face, I feel like they played Kentucky last time, but they're playing Florida. They get a rematch with Florida. The last time they played Florida, they lost by 36, I believe. It was in Gainesville. And Florida's got all the players. They got Thomas Hawk. They've got Boogie Fland, who was a former Razorback last year. They got Ruben Chinulu. They got Xavier Lee. They've got a lot of really good players. And again, there's a reason that they're a projected 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They're the reason that they're 3 games ahead of everyone else in the SEC standings when the regular season came to an end. And Arkansas is a great team, right? They got Darius Acuff when he's not playing well or when he's injured. They got Malik Thomas. The freshman duo is probably the best in the nation. What worries me about them and what will worry me when it comes to NCAA tournament time and what has been a problem for Arkansas when they faced off against some other teams this season, one, starting out slow, which they've gotten better at, defense, which they've gotten better at, and then how their bigs will play. Malik Ewan, Nick Pringle, Trevin Brazil. How are those guys going to step up and play for the Razorbacks? If those 3 big areas of what Arkansas has struggled out this season get better, which they have, Arkansas has a chance to win this game. And if they excel at all 3 of those things, start out fast, you play good defense, and your big step up, the Razorbacks can win this game. But all those things have to go pretty perfectly to beat the Gators. So I think Arkansas loses this game. I think Florida is your champion and wins the SEC championship game. Doesn't matter, though, in the grand scheme of things. Arkansas will be a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament if they make it to here. Now, what happens if they lose this first game? They'll probably still be a 5 seed, maybe fall to a 6 seed. But again, not a ton of that will matter once it comes time for the NCAA tournament. So there it is. There's my bracket breakdown of the SEC tournament for 2026. Let's now move on to the baseball world. Diamond Hogs, Stetson, I think the first time since in the 90s maybe? I think it's like 36 straight non-conference home series wins up until this point. They lose this against the Hatters, or they tie it. It feels like a loss because of what happened these last 2 games. But really, it felt like Arkansas was turning things around. A win Friday, a win Saturday, the bats are getting going. Everything's looking good. A run will win. And then Sunday and Monday, it just crumbles. I mean, Arkansas just doesn't play like the team they played in those first 2 days. So I don't know what's wrong, but something needs to change with this Arkansas program for them to only have 5 hits and 1 run on Sunday, and then maybe do a little better Monday, but pitching is a little bit of an issue in both of these games as well, which is something we haven't seen this season. I don't think this guy is falling for Arkansas. I think they'll be fine, but there is definitely some concern for the Razorbacks. And here's what head coach Dave Van Horn had to say after the games.
It is what it is. Hopefully we learn from it. Hopefully we get better because of what went on. I know that we have a lot of new guys in our program, whether they're from high school or from other programs. And, to me, I just want them to know this is not the way to go about things here.
Yeah, I like that Dave Van Horn is at least, setting the expectations. I mean, this is not the standard. So he understands that. Fans understand that. I can understand fans' frustration. But hopefully Arkansas can continue improving. Well, let's talk about softball. Softball is a little bit more heading in the right direction. They had a tough loss Friday that did not look great. Then they turned around Saturday and had some big wins. A 1-run win against Georgia Saturday. Then, of course, same team because this was their first SEC series of the season, which the Razorbacks will have this upcoming weekend. They'll host Mississippi State, by the way. Arkansas beating Georgia 6-0 on Sunday. So a 2-1 series win for the Razorback softball team over the weekend. All right, finally, let's move on to Arkansas high school basketball state championships. The last few minutes of my show, we'll talk briefly about some of the big ones coming up this weekend. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one because there's a lot of teams playing. There's a lot of games going on. You can go to probably our website to check out that schedule or the AAA's website. But let's talk about some of the big ones, 4A, 5A, and 6A, the teams in our coverage area in the Little Rock DMA that will be playing this weekend. So let's talk about the 4A girls. That game will be Friday night at 6 o'clock. P Ridge and Pulaski Academy. The Bruins were a team last year that made it to the state championship game, hadn't lost a single game, and then lost in the state finals. It was a crushing way to go out for Coach Yarborough in her first year there at the helm at PA, but now she's hoping to bring them their first state title in program history. So I've got a good feeling they can do it. P Ridge had a couple upsets on their way. I mean, they're a 4 seed, which is really crazy. They're a 4 seed. They've had some magical upsets. Is that right? They're a 4 seed? Yeah, they've had some magical upsets to get to where they are, but I think this is where the magic runs out for P Ridge. I think Pulaski Academy will win. That game is Friday at 6 o'clock. Then right after that, the 4A boys, Little Rock Hall and Mills. The first time since 2019 that Hall has been in the state championship game. If they win, it'll be the first time since 2013 that the Warriors win a state championship. 2013, the year that Bobby Portis was there. You probably know him. If you watch the show, you should probably know who Bobby Portis is. Little Rock Hall hasn't been here in a while, but Coach Coleman is trying to bring them back to glory, and they've got a good team. But they're facing off against the Mills Comets, the defending state champs out of the Class 4A. I lean Mills in this game, but you never know. You never know if Hall could kind of pull off a little bit of an upset there. But a real cool story on Little Rock Hall to make it to that point. And then the Class 5A boys, Saturday afternoon at 1:45, Marion and Little Rock Parkview. So the Patriots versus the Patriots and the 5A boys. That's Saturday at 1:45. Saturday night, 6 o'clock. The 6A girls, Harbor Wildcats and North Little Rock Charging Wildcats. So Charging Wildcats versus Wildcats. A lot of mascot matchups there. We'll see if the Charging Wildcats can get the win in the 6A girls. And then after that, the 6A boys, the final game, Bryant and Little Rock Central. Man, I cannot wait for this game. This will be the fun one of the, I mean, they're all going to be fun, but this is the one I'm probably looking forward to the most out of the weekend because the largest classification, you're going to have the most fans. You're probably going to have the most high-level athletes playing in this game as well. Bryant, I would say, is pretty big favorites, but, as a defending state champs, they're big favorites, but who knows with the way Little Rock Central has been playing and the way how intense they play, and they take after their coach with that as well. So I love a lot of these matchups. There will be a lot of fun. You can tune into this show next week. We'll probably do a Tuesday show next week for those of you avid watchers, and we'll recap the state championship weekend. We'll recap the SEC tournament. We will preview March Madness, the NCAA tournament for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Luttie's Look Back. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you same time, same place next week.